Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video I will be reviewing the game Elder Scrolls 2 Morrowind. I hope to review more games in the future if this channel is successful and takes off. I rate the games on aspects such as gameplay, graphics, content and its replay value. Morrowind is a role-playing game, which means in this case once you complete the tutorial section you are free to roam around the world as you please, even completely ignoring the main quest if that's what you want. And it is the third game in the Elder Scrolls series, which is well known for its open-ended and non-linear gameplay. And Morrowind was also the first main Elder Scrolls game available for a home video game console. Storyline I will get into right after I explain about the graphics. The graphics at first glance aren't great, and unless you are willing to invest in light on-self spells and magical clothes and trinkets to allow you to see in the dark, this game is extremely difficult to play regarding navigation in dark interiors such as dimly lit buildings and caves. Of course, you can bypass all that and turn the brightness up on your TV if you are playing on Xbox, or turning up the gamma if you're playing on PC, which can be accessed through the pause menu. This game is extremely popular with the mod community, and there is a countless number of mods available for the version, which enhances the graphics such as realistic textures, rendering of distance and scenery shadows. Although this game is extremely worthwhile to play, the great aging graphics may put off some first-time players. A positive aspect to note about Morrowind is the characters in this game are much nicer looking than the Oblivion characters. For example, although Morrowind has a limited character creation system, you can give your characters different features such as face paint on Nords and Orcs, earrings on Bosfor and Dunmer, and beards on males. In Oblivion you couldn't give your characters any of these things, and if you try to create a beard on your character in Oblivion, your character turns blue for some reason. In fact, the only NPC in Oblivion that has an actual beard is Jaegora. As well as this, the characters in Oblivion are noted to be ugly and puffy looking, whereas the characters in Morrowind look normal, albeit somewhat generic. Technically, Oblivion did have a more advanced engine with superior foliage and trees, but was considered glitchy and experimental, and Morrowind's aesthetic was just more consistent and nicer to look at. Overall, I would rate the graphics 6 out of 10, taking the age and system restraints into account. Moving on to the storyline. Well, there is more storylines than you will know what to do with. Before you even look at the main quest, there is the Thieves Guild, the Mages Guild, the Fighters Guild, the Morag Tong, which is like the Dark Brotherhood, the Three Grey Houses, the Imperial Cult, the Imperial Legion, and the Vampire Quest. And that is all before you even begin to look at the side quests, the miscellaneous quests, and the hidden quests. Basically, you will never run out of stuff to do. And if all this was not already enough, there is a massive overarching lore that makes up the Elder Scrolls universe. But I cannot stress how ridiculously detailed and intricate the lore for the Elder Scrolls series is. Like, there is an entire Wikipedia dedicated to the lore. The lore for the Elder Scrolls could potentially be the most detailed and broad ever written for a video game. I think that is what distinguishes this game from other fantasy games. That you are literally entering another completely unique and original world, with its own races, cultures, class systems, inequalities, architecture, literature, clothes, peoples, currency, language, religions, foods, drink, drugs, settlements and creatures, not just like some rip-off of like 20 other fantasy games you've played before, plagued with tired cliches and familiar tropes found in Tolkien wannabes. Although there is a nod to real-life historical cultures and works of Tolkien, you can tell the developers put the work in to make this world their own, and that is why I would place this game above other fantasy RPGs that I have played. If I had to criticise the storyline, it would be that the main questline doesn't seem that ardent ever. Like, if you compare it to Oblivion's questline, in which demons from another land are coming in, and it's your job to literally enter hell and prevent Cyrodiil being taken over by hellish creatures from hell. You can see why Morrowind's storyline is a little tame in comparison. Not that the main story isn't any less satisfying, I would just call it a bit vague. Like, you get off the ship, you're released as a free citizen, and you're told to ask for this guy in the next town, or something like that. And it just kind of drifts off from there, and it is kind of floating in the air until the near end, only really appearing in NPC's conversation topics as a bit of gossip rather than a major world event. You can see how a new player may get confused and lose interest fast, but don't let that put you off. I'm giving this game a 9 out of 10 in the storyline category, with marks going for originality, broadness and depth. Moving on to gameplay, you start off in a prison ship, you get excused, you get chosen to go save the world without any input, kind of standard RPG stuff. The tutorial and character process are kind of merged in a hidden tutorial quest where you get asked your race, class and birth signs, which affects your starting set of skills, abilities and attributes. If that last sentence made no sense to you, which chances are it did not, I will explain. There are 10 playable races in Morrowind, orcs becoming playable with the release of Morrowind. They are called Argonian, Breton, Dark Elf, also known as Dunmer, High Elf, also known as Altmer, Imperials, Khajiit, Nords, Orcs, Wood Elves, also known as Bosmer, and Redguards. All these races have their own homeland, history, culture and customs and are quite different from each other. It is interesting to note that it has been speculated that these races have been based on real-life civilizations. For example, the Imperial race being based upon ancient Rome and the North being based on Nordic and Viking civilization. If you are interested in this topic, I put a link to a video explaining more about Elder Scrolls races and their real-life counterparts in the description. Gameplay-wise, your race will affect minor aspects of the game, such as starting skills, starting spells and comments from NPCs. Also, you may get a special race-specific power or resistance depending on what race you choose. NPCs will like or dislike you just a little depending on your race, but it is barely noticeable. We're talking a couple of disposition points here, and you are more or less treated the same by most characters regardless of your race. Some races are more suited to character paths than others. For example, an orc will initially be more suitable as a heavy armoured axe wielder than a high elf will be, or a wood elf will be more suited as a lightly armoured archer than a Breton would. But of course, the beauty of this game is that you are never forced into a category. Your spellcasting wizard orc may take a bit longer to advance and level up, but so what? You are not pigeonholed into a certain class, and at any time you can completely change your character, archetype and playing style if that is what you desire. The only restrictions on races in the game that I have found is that Argonian and Khajiit cannot wear boots and helms. This is a big disadvantage to these races and is quite unlike the Elder Scrolls series from Morrowind onwards to put specific restrictions in place. I'm not sure of the game writer's logic behind this, perhaps to show attention to detail because the feet and faces of these races are different than the human elven feet. All I know, it is annoying and probably put off a lot of people, including myself, from playing as Khajiit or Argonian. I myself normally play as a Dunmer, but I have experimented with other races and character archetypes. Moving on, your class is basically what your character archetype will be, such as magic, stealth or combat orientated. There are pre-selected classes you can choose from, or you can answer a series of questions to help choose. But if I were you, I would ignore all that and just make your own custom class. There are a number of benefits to doing this, as you get to pick your own custom major and minor skills, name and attributes. Major and minor skills are the skills that you pick that you want to focus on and will start at a larger value and will also level up more rapidly than the other skills. For example, a magic orientated character might want to focus on alchemy, destruction and enchanting, whereas a combat orientated character might want to focus on skills such as block, heavy armour and long blade. Attributes are a bit different and have a larger overall effect on your gaming character. For example, strength affects how much stuff you are able to carry and how much damage you do in combat, and intelligence affects your total magicka. As you level up, the skills you have increased will go towards the relevant attributes. For example, if you increase your spear, medium armor, and heavy armor skills during a certain level, you will have more points to go towards your endurance attribute, which will go towards increasing your health. While on the topic, I should mention your derived attributes, which is your health, magicka, and fatigue. Your health is pretty self-explanatory. It is basically how much damage you can take, whether that be in combat or falling off a cliff or self-inflicted or whatever, before you die and have to return to your last save point. Your magicka is how much magic you have before you run out, and is influenced by your willpower and intelligence attributes. Finally, your fatigue is how much energy you have and depletes as you perform actions such as running or swimming. It is very easy to overlook this, and when I first started this game, I didn't realise the significance of fatigue. It influences your chance of successfully completing an action, such as casting a spell or hitting a target in combat. Those NPCs really aren't messing around when they mention to carry a couple of restore fatigue potions around with you. Finally, birth sign concerns what sign you were born under, which the signs themselves have a pretty interesting lore behind them. I have added a link in the description if you are interested in more about the lore behind the birth signs in the Elder Scrolls universe. Gameplay wise, they will add special bonuses to you or give you extra powers or spells. It is a bit of an advantage, but to be honest, I wouldn't overthink these initial choices. Your skills, attributes and abilities will grow naturally as you progress through the game. You can revise your character choices once before you step out of the Census and Excise office in Satanine and actually begin playing the game. Also, I should mention that your attributes will be affected accordingly if you play as a man or a woman. For example, they may have more strength, but the women will have more personality, depending on your race. The gender of your character will also affect some quests and their outcomes, as well as comments from NPCs. Moving on from character creation onto combat, well, straight off, I won't lie, the hit or miss dice roll combat system is not Morrowind's strong point and almost put me off playing the game altogether when I initially began playing it. You will need plenty of dedication and patience here. There are 3 types of combat moves depending on what direction you swing your weapon, but there is an option to bypass that with the always use best attack setting in the options menu, which I would recommend myself as the combat is hard enough on its own anyway. The combat is a dice roll system, which is a hidden arithmetic formula which takes your combat skill, relevant attributes, fatigue and other hidden factors into account when determining if your attack hits the target or not. This dice roll system also applies to offensive, on-target or on-touch spells directed at enemies in combat. Unfortunately, the combat is annoying and frustrating at first, but once you get to around level 5 it gets easier and more manageable as you progress your skills and development. Overall, I would rate this gameplay an 8 out of 10. To be honest, if none of that made any sense to you, which it probably won't until you start playing the game, I don't blame you. It is a very detailed and complex game, and I've been playing it since I was like 7, 8? Literally a decade, and I still feel like barely scratched the surface of this game. Like there is so much stuff to do, and books to read, and people to talk to, and chests to open, and slug things to kill, which leads us on to our next question. Is this game worth playing in 2021? I won't lie, I'll be on my deathbed recommending this game, but seriously, I would still say this game is worth playing in 2021. Nearly 20 years later. Don't let the old graphics and awkward combat put you off. It is extremely worthwhile playing, and if you underestimate this game, you will be missing out definitely. Even if you ever get bored of the main game by any chance, there is 2 massive extra official plugins and a wealth of mods made by third-party users submitted onto modding sites, which adds extra content to the game. I therefore rate Morrowind an 8.4 out of 10. Just to end this video, I've included another video in the description concerning Morrowind mods and the other ones I mentioned earlier if you are interested. This is my first ever proper YouTube video I have ever made, and I know it's not great or anything. I literally just filmed this on my iPad and edited it on my laptop. The quality isn't great because I just don't have the resources to buy a microphone or a camera or fancy editing software, so I apologise for that. However, I would appreciate it though if you could like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.